We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. It is Thursday, but it's not just any Thursday. It happens to be Thanksgiving. For those of you that celebrate Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving. I want you to know I'm recording this the night before, and we've got a regular and special guest. Old Soul is back with you. What a very opportune time to have Old Soul with us on Thanksgiving. I'm sure you got a lot of shit going on around your house.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be full tomorrow. But happy
Yeah.
Thanksgiving because it'll be Thanksgiving when they hear this. So happy Thanksgiving to
Are you
everybody.
are you cooking?
Yeah, I'm actually taking a dish. My brother and his wife is hosting this year, so I'm gonna take a dish over there with my little herd, which is my daughter, her boyfriend, her boyfriend's dad, the wild child, and Grammy. So my little herd, we're gonna go over there
Well, that's
to
that's that should be fun. It's always great fun to get together with family. I know on my side of the family, especially, everybody looks forward to it because we start picking on each other and the kids are there and all that stuff. And I just told you off the air, and I'll tell the folks too because people seem to like hearing about my stories about my granddaughter Junie. She's a little goofball. She's my favorite guy. Um, we just found out that my son, who is Junie's dad, and his wife, my daughter-in-law, are going to have another baby at the end of May. It's going to be a little boy. We don't know the name yet. My wife said, "Don't tell us. We need something to be surprised with." But Junie's going to have a little brother, and God help that little brother because he's going to get bossed around.
yeah, but I can tell you, nobody better not mess with that kid.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That should be pretty exciting. So what else, you're always busy. People always say, well, you're doing all this on TikTok and whatever. You must be pretty busy. I ain't even close to busy compared to Old Soul. She's out there on the streets, pounding the sidewalk. What do you got going?
We're doing our community building. So I'm like, I haven't texted you, talked to you, or anything.
No, we haven't talked.
Um, I've been busy doing that, but it came along pretty good. I had a couple of I don't really know how to explain it, but we have like that neighborhood app. I think it's called like the neighborhood. And so I put on there what we were trying to do and, if you need help and stuff. And we got responses, but not the amount that I thought. So
Yeah.
we were knocking on doors and everything. So we got like a good little a good little community in this area going. Unfortunately, it's mostly minorities. We have a couple of like white families in there, but mostly minorities, I guess. The other families wasn't with it, but I ended up having I went to the police station like, hey, this is what we're trying to do. There's going to be adults around children and all this stuff. How can we do it safely? So we had like a fish fry and we invited everybody and was like talking, trying to get everybody scheduled together and stuff. And they actually came and they were having people write down their information for background checks so we could feel safe with who the children are with. And it was a couple of people that was like, yeah, I'm out, and they wasn't really with that. It would be a red flag for me if if my boyfriend did that. I'm like, wait, what? But other than that, it's okay. So far so good. We'll start next week, and then there's a couple of families over here who had their children like in latchkey programs after school,
Hmm.
but since we have people that's going to watch them, that's going to save them some money so they don't have to pay for that after school
Wow.
program. And there's an apartment complex not that far from here. And a couple of the seniors actually live there. And they have like a rec room. And so when the children get off the bus, they're going to go to the rec room. They'll have like their snacks there. And then we worked out a schedule for like the older kids to help them with their homework. So that'll be done by the time their parents come. So yeah, it's going pretty good. Yeah, it's good.
Oh, well,
It's
Old
good.
Soul, as we'd expect, Old Soul is quite the organizer. When you were telling the story about how you put it out in the neighborhood online site and
Yeah.
you didn't get much response, so you went around knocking on doors. I got this image of what Donald Trump says. We're going to help you whether you like it or not. Open the fucking door. I'm sure it
Yeah.
didn't go down that way.
Yeah. I mean, some people they were just like, nope, I'm cool by myself. There was a few people that just didn't want their business out there as far as like background checks. I did try to say, you could still participate in some of this stuff, but we just don't want to see you along with any children if you're not going to do a background check. And,
Right.
they just dipped out from there. There's a girl, and I don't think she's any more than like 30. And she has like four children, and she is like working a job and a half. And she was just saying how overwhelmed she is. So we
Yeah.
got together yesterday and we went over. My mother, she was like, look, the next time you have me going to clean up somebody's house, give me an accurate picture of what the house looked like. It was pretty bad, but we
Yeah.
got it cleaned up. I helped her get on a schedule because that's what my grandmother told me when I left home. So it's like if you have a certain day where you do stuff, then on your days off, you can kind of like relax and enjoy your days off. So
Yeah.
like Wednesdays are wash days, Fridays are floor days where I mop, vacuum, do the baseboards, all that stuff. So every day of the week, you're doing something different. But by the time your off days come around, you can just chill because all of your work is out of the way. So we helped her with that. She has a little boy. His name is JJ. And I don't know what she's gonna do with that child because he was like, because I was telling him his part, make sure your clothes are picked up in the hamper and your room is together before you go to bed at night. Like that's how you're gonna help your mom out. And he's like, I'm a kid, I can't do that. And I was like, okay, you don't have to, that's fine. I was like, but just keep in mind when you run out of drawers and you become that stinky kid in class, don't become crying to me and your mama. And then the wild child, she's sitting next to me and she's like, maybe you can learn karate or something to help you from the bullies. And he was like, I think I got this. He a handful, but I like him. He kind of like this spunky little kid, but it's coming together so far. So
Well, that's
different
good.
people, stuff going on. There's Madi Soul. She like has like a garden like with vegetables and stuff in there. So she's gonna like, show some of us how to keep the vegetable gardens and stuff going to different people's yards. And so I think it's gonna work out good. I'm more excited about the childcare part because they're paying for their kids to be sitting in the library at school, waiting for them to get off work when they could be doing that here and saving their parents money. Well, doing it at the rec room and saving their parents money. So it's coming.
I don't think people realize how hard it is for some young people. I mean, they're not getting paid a lot of money. It's hard as hell to afford rent,
Yeah,
and then you have kids. I remember having to pay daycare when I was young with my young kids, and I had a
yeah,
job and my wife had a job, but we weren't making much money, and it was a fucking struggle. And like you
yeah,
said, it becomes insurmountable. You got these bills, those bills. You got to keep the house clean. You got to raise your kids. You got to pay for daycare. It does become insurmountable. So to have kind of a safety net or just a line to hold on to, uh, a lot of people have to be welcome to it. Now, here's what's going to happen, old soul. Maybe some people would have pushed you back. Okay. Say, well, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with this. When this
yeah.
takes off and is successful, you're going to be bombarded with people who want in. That's just the way it goes.
That's what my daughter said. She was just kind of like, the people that were not really, open to it. She was like, if they see, especially like prices and stuff is like getting ready to go up. So
Yeah.
it's like we need to figure out how to save them money, get their kids looked after, try to make it work for them. And she's like, well, other people see that. I think more people are going to be like wanting to jump in. And I was like, we'll see how that goes. But I think it'll be all right, though. I do. But
Well,
yeah.
well, not, bringing that up organization, I'm going to bring something up and it's going to sound like it's self-serving and I don't mean it to be. But yesterday I hit a milestone on TikTok. Okay. And I reached 400,000 followers and
Uh-oh.
20 million likes. That's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool. But here's the deal. A lot of people want to do that and say, I'm great at what I do and a pat on my back. That's not what excited me about this. When I started doing TikToks, I thought, well, maybe I'll get 10,000 followers. I thought, how am I going to get followers and views? And then I said, fuck it. I don't know. I got nothing. I'm 60. I look like this. What the fuck can I do but sit here and talk and let the chips fall where they may? Well, of course, a lot of people came along and we got followers and we went past 10,000, well past 10,000. And what excites me about having that milestone isn't to flag what success I've had because I really haven't done anything different than I would have done without TikTok. I'm talking the same way I talk to other people. It's just that the people on TikTok are more welcoming than the guy down the street that doesn't know me.
Yeah.
But when you talk about organizations, and this is what interests me, and I don't know really what to do with it. This is why I'm bringing it to you. The next 4 years are going to be a difficult time. We're going to need to fight our way through this. And what I
Yeah.
find so amazing about 400,000 people on TikTok isn't whatever I've done. The fact is we've got older people, we've got younger people. They've all
Hmm.
come along and grouped together, and they're all of a like mind. Because I blow out all the Trumplafucks. These are all good people for the most part. And I'm thinking, if you have 400,000 people thinking the same, there's some value in that. You got a louder voice, you got some power. Now it's a matter of how to use it. I
Yeah.
can keep doing what I'm doing and they can keep following. But now we're at a point where we might have some leverage on some things. Maybe not as big as some creators, but it's a significant amount. So I've got to figure out going forward how we can sort of weaponize all these people of a like mind to actually do some good going into the next 4 years when it could be kind of troubled. Does that
Yeah.
make sense to you as somebody who organizes?
Yeah, it does. I when you said the like the older people and the younger people coming together, that kind of hit home because like
Right.
I that the people there, I didn't know how many I was gonna get. I didn't know what other people's schedules were and stuff like that. But there was and it's like the seniors that's primarily gonna be at the rec room with the kids after school. And then the older kids are gonna on their days when they rotate, come help them with their homework. But I was like, how do I like organize like whose days is what days or whatever. And there's this one lady, she's older, and she was like, "Well, I could do it. I ran my husband's business for like 25 years and blah blah blah." I'm like, "You sure?" She was just like, "Yeah." And like that next day, like before I could even go to lunch at noon, she was like had everything ran down, had people in like different groups, like these are the younger, like she just had it all organized. And I was just like, "Okay, you taught me a lesson." But it's just kind of like me being able to like go out there and pound the pavement and her to be able to just like sit back, organize, get everybody together. She even knew like the medications and stuff that they had. Um, it it came out pretty good that we worked together, and I think that's what's gonna help us get through this is to
Yeah.
try to be there for each other as much as possible. And I learned this past week that not everybody's going to be open to it, but you just have to do what you can when you can do it with who you can. So, we'll see. But I
Well,
think it's going to be.
and I think young people need to be exposed to something like this because oftentimes they'll see an old person like me or somebody older and they'll go, "Yeah, you're an old man. Just get out of the way. Let us young people handle it." And to some
Yeah,
extent, that's true. We've slowed down and they're going to go their own way. But the fact of the matter is, the older people, they've experienced pretty much everything that you're going to experience. And it's good to know what their perception of that is. I always did
yeah,
that when I was younger. I always went to the old guys if I had a problem, and I'd go to them and say, "I got this problem. What did you do when you did it?" Some of them would tell me good things, some of them would tell me bad things, but at least
yeah.
I knew what I was dealing with. And there's some value in gaining some knowledge based on experience from these older people. And this is going to give younger kids that opportunity, an opportunity they probably wouldn't take on themselves because they're fucking old people.
Yeah, I think something that I try to do is especially if somebody is like younger than me, because I'm starting to see that sometimes they can be like embarrassed about certain things. Like when we went to go clean our house, she was like so embarrassed.
Yeah,
And I'm like, you got 4 kids. Like, are you kidding me? Don't be embarrassed. We're gonna get you clean. We're gonna get you on a schedule and you'll be okay. But she was really embarrassed and she just kind of felt like she was just hiding from people. She didn't want people in her house. She didn't want people to know that she was like struggling. But I do think like if you just make somebody comfortable, then they'll be able to pass that along to the next person. And there's one girl I kind of like saw myself in her, and I was like, so what do you do after school? I'm just talking to her, and she was like, nothing. I just have to come home and watch my brothers, and like you don't want to like do a cheerleader, you don't want to do big, like you don't want to do nothing. She's like, no, I have to watch my brothers. And I'm like, yeah, people are going to watch them. What are you going to do? And I
right,
think that I saw myself in her because I didn't get to do like a lot of things because I had to come help my grandmother with them. And so I think sometimes when we look at different children, you'll see like a connection with some of them. And then that's when you're supposed to kind of like come in and foster that.
right.
Um, I'm gonna get her doing something after school besides watching them bad kids. But I think there's a couple things you want to do, and we'll make it happen. But I think it was just, and then kind of like build them up. Even when you're like my age or not as old as the other people, you're kind of like in between. So I can relate to the older ones and the younger ones. So that's it, like that's a good little sweet spot to be where you can kind of be that go between for the groups. So I don't think people realize like how much power that they have if they really want to make a difference. You don't need like a bunch of money or any of that. You could just put yourself out there and make a difference.
Well, and if anybody questions whether you can pull that off for this girl or any other girl, all you have to
Yeah.
say is, see that little girl over there, wild child? You should have seen her when I first got my hands on her. Now she's now she's a clean and happy activist like nobody's business, and and knows more about black culture than most black girls.
She has a stick. Well, it's not a stick. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're kind of, I didn't know what they were. But it's like they're kind of like heavy and it looks like I don't know, it looked like maybe a flashlight or something. It's really heavy, but when you like hit it out, it kind of like expands and it's like this metal part. I don't know, some kind of like police baton or something.
Oh, I
But
know what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, she has one of those and she named it Kick Ass. And so she's walking around with, I keep calling it a stick, even though it's baton or whatever. And she keeps walking around with it. And it's almost like she wants somebody to do something so she can use the stick. Like I'm getting that vibe from her. And she was with my daughter and my uncle because we have like conventions out here all the time. And it was some kind of, I don't know, some kind of a convention where they were selling stuff like that. And so she hit me up and she was like, hey, can I buy this? She called it like a safety device or something for when she's, walking. I was like, yeah, no
Of
problem.
course.
And so then when we started noticing her, like, she doesn't go anywhere without that stick. And my uncle tells me, he was like, I tried to tell you that she didn't need that. And I was like, no, you didn't. You just told me, hey, she's going to ask you for something. And then you put her on the phone. If you didn't think it was a good idea, you should have like texted me. You should have snuck off, called me, gave me a heads up. And he was like, well, I'm not a woman. I'm not like sneaky like y'all are. But anyway, it's too late now. She got that stick. She liked to walk around with it. And I'm just like, oh my God, I hope don't nobody like look at her wrong when she got this stick. I think she wants to use it.
Wow. Wow. That's a little scary. You might want to get her some sedatives, just calm her down a little bit.
Yeah. And we did find out for her winter break because I expedited her passport. So we're gonna go and hang out with her host family for her winter break. I get along with them. I know them. They were in the military with my brother, so they're cool. But I still need to make sure that she clicks with them. So we're gonna go together, make sure everybody is good for her winter break. So she's looking forward to her first trip, like out of the country with a passport. You
Where's she
know,
going again?
Germany.
You're going with her at first?
Yeah, we're gonna go for her winter break. So they have winter break coming up like before Christmas. I think they get a couple weeks off.
Right.
So we're gonna go meet the family, hang out for a little bit, but she probably just gonna be running around all over that base, like making friends and stuff like she normally do. But
Well, it'll be a great
I'm
experience for her. It will be an absolute great experience for her. And she's growing up quickly thanks to you and some of the experiences that you've been able to give her.
it'll be bittersweet. But what Trump is doing with this military, like there's not a chance that I could take. But just don't get me talking about her leaving. I'm gonna be upset.
Okay, we won't talk about that, but let's talk about what's going on in the country. That's kind of why we're here. From the moment Donald Trump won the election, people have been going through some things, or as back in the '80s uh, when I was representing a lot of black artists, they always said a lot of shit. I didn't know what the fuck they were meaning because they used slang terms that younger people used, and and what one of the things they'd always say, she's going through some kinds of changes and tripping and shit. But a lot of people were feeling that right way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, where are you at now with this? I mean, you were upset, you were depressed, you were mad, and now here we are 3, 4 weeks after the fact. Where's your mindset right now?
I've come to terms with what happened, and like when I'm, doing something other than watching politics 24 hours, it's a little easier to deal with. And I'm learning to like take a break from it. Like, okay, I'm cool for the day. I'm not gonna watch it. But when I see, it's hard to see something coming and you know it's going to be bad and you can't do anything to stop it. The only thing you can do is prepare for it. It's kind of like, when you see on television, because I haven't experienced like hurricanes and tornadoes and stuff. But when you see that and you see the people like boarding up their homes and preparing for it and, all of that other kind of stuff, for me, that's what it feels like. Because I know it's going to be bad. I know it's going to be really, really bad.
Well,
And
you've
I'm
been hearing him talking now about the tariffs and the deportation and all the other shit he's been talking about. Have you been surprised by the pushback he's gotten from his own people, from corporate America, from Republicans, from big oil, especially about the tariff thing? Have you been surprised by that? I mean, it seems like they supported him coming up to this point. Now they're going, whoa, 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 you're not really going to do that, right? But his intention is to do that.
I think that I would have to see it in practice in order to believe it. And I try not to be like a downer about it and not be optimistic. But for us, it's not safe to feel like that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like we were kind of like coasting and feeling comfortable leading up to the election. And then we had a wake up call on November 5th, like, yeah, the country ain't feeling you like that.
Right.
So it's not safe for me to look at that and be like, okay, yeah, they're going to stop him. He can't do this because of that. What I've been telling myself is it's going to be bad. However, he's not going to be able to do everything. But what I know he can do, just prepare for that. And it's like, even if Trump does like 5, 15% of what he says he's going to do,
That's not
it
going to
is
be good.
people. Yeah. So people are looking at like all of this stuff that will drive anybody crazy. So I just focus on what I know he's going to do. I know what he can do. And I know what Republicans are going to support him on. And then I try to prepare myself for that, try to prepare my nephews and my cousins for that. Especially like, they're bringing back like stop and frisk and, police with immunities and him deputizing people to go into states if he can't get the military to do it. um, I try to prepare them for that because they wasn't alive to or around or paying attention to see like Rodney King survived the beating that he got.
Right.
They've seen people get murdered, George Floyd, Trayvon Martin. They've seen that type of stuff, but they haven't like lived through somebody actually surviving that. And it's just kind of like we try to prepare them to be in these situations and how to be okay with that. And if we don't, it's not safe for them if we don't tell them what to look out for,
Right.
what you can do. You got to move different now. And so we're like already preparing them for that. So
Well, he's
often,
making he's making all these claims prior to being installed into office, inaugurated into office. And there
yeah,
are people that are followers of his or supportive of his that are explaining it this way. And I think they're probably right to a certain extent. Donald Trump is doing what Donald Trump does. He's a bully. They don't say he's a bully, they say he's a negotiator. And, when it comes to tariffs with Mexico or Canada, it's just absolutely stupid. It's going to be devastating for the people of this country, and all the people that voted for him will find out what fuck around and find out is all about. But
yeah,
what Donald Trump tends to do, he makes threats. And his goal to make threats is essentially what bullies do. I'm going to threaten you, and if you give up and curl up and die, then I win. If you don't do that at first, I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to do it harder because this is the only strategy I know. It's when the pushback comes where he has a problem. So he's going his standard policy. He's going to get in people's faces. He's going to make all these claims. But now he's got a problem, though, especially with the tariff thing.
yeah,
Everybody who could have said this months before and saved themselves from this problem, saying this is going to crash the economy. He wants to put tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Well, a lot of our oil comes out of Canada. So now you're going to have higher gas prices. A lot of our vehicles come out of Mexico, and auto parts come out of Mexico. So you're going to have higher price for cars, higher fuel for cars, and higher repairs for cars. People
yeah,
aren't going to set well with that. And, this is Donald Trump. Donald Trump says a lot of things. He's a pathological liar. He likes to make threats. This is why when he gets into office, do you really think these wealthy people, these big corporations, big oil for that matter, you think they're going to allow him to do that? Because the one thing that Donald Trump reacts to is money. And these people have a lot of money. Do you really think they're going to allow him to do that? I mean, if he does get crazy and he does it anyway, he's not going to last long because the Republicans may end up fucking impeaching him if he starts tearing down their financial base.
Well, I remember I think the difference is from his first term and now his second term is the people behind him.
Yeah,
His first term, he did have civil civil servants in there. They knew how to
right,
govern. They were, high ranking. As horrible as their policies were, they were kind of American first, or I'm only gonna let you take it so far, then I'm gonna check you on this type of stuff. The people he's putting in places now, they're not civil servants. They don't
right,
know what that means. They don't serve anyone but themselves. They don't have an obligation to us. The one senator, I can't remember his name because he's not worth remembering, but he said, Donald Trump tells us to jump 3 feet in the air and pat our heads.
right, right.
We don't question that. It never dawned on him that you don't work for Donald Trump. You work for your constituents. You work for the people that put you there. You do what's best for them. You make sure they're okay. Their schools are okay. Their children are okay. No, it's about Donald Trump. And these are the people that he's surrounding himself with. And then when you think about the tariffs, in his first time, the tariff war that he created, the farmers being decimated, these were civil servants that minimized his damage. So what happens when you don't have those people there to check him? Um, I think that's the difference. And for me, looking at it, um, I would almost rather have. I know how crazy this sounds, but I almost would rather have someone evil and competent that can do the things that he wants to do versus these incompetent people. Because if you have somebody that's evil and they know what they're doing, then you're going to minimize people who are here legally and this wide net and them all getting swept up in it because they will like go about it in a methodical way. It'll be planned out, organized. These people are they just want to just do it, however chaotic and how crazy it's going to be. Their racism and their hatred is driving this. There's no logic behind it. There's no policy behind it. There's no, I don't care. They don't care who they hurt. That's not there. So the fact that they are incompetent makes them that much more dangerous. And they don't have any fealty to us at all.
Yeah,
So I think some of the stuff he's going to do, not a lot of it, but it's kind of like the worst stuff is what he can do. That they couldn't stop that trade war during his first term. These people, I don't think they're going to stop it this turn either. The only thing is, he's not running for reelection. So unless JD Vance or another Republican who wants to come up behind him decides to Julius Caesar him and stab him in the back, then hey, but I don't know who that person would be. And I can't trust the Republican to do the right thing when it comes to anything outside of lining their pockets. I think
well,
that's just what it would be.
um, yeah, but Donald Trump's in a different situation. He's got nothing to lose. He's not going to run again. But on the other side of the coin, the Republicans have everything to lose. Because if the economy goes to shit, if we have these horrible optics, the Republicans are going to get the blame for it. So it's my contention that when Donald Trump was running for election on this term, that's when he had the most value to the Republican Party. He
Mm-hmm.
brought them the presidency, the House and the Senate and all this stuff. The House isn't enough margin to even be governable. We saw that the last 2 years, and it's even closer now. But it's my theory that right now Donald Trump holds no real value to the Republican Party. He can't get them anymore. He got them what they got, and now he's more of a liability. And when I say liability, I mean he's going to do fucked up shit, hurt this country. And it's not going to hurt him because he's not going to run again. It's going to hurt the Republicans. And this is why I see the Republicans kind of building up some guardrails. We've already seen it. He wanted Rick Scott as the majority leader. They said, fuck no. He wanted Matt Gaetz as the attorney general. They said no. I'm not saying the Republicans are going to do all the right things and we're safe, that there won't be some fucked up shit, but I don't think they're going to let him get away uh, with most of the shit he wants to do, um, because it's going to hurt them and not hurt him. That's why I say that he becomes less valuable to the Republican Party. And I don't know that they would think twice about kicking his ass out. They're in a better situation with J.D. Vance because he's so malleable. He's such a pussy ass bitch. They can control him to do anything they want. They can't control Donald Trump. The better option is to have J.D. Vance in there and not Donald Trump.
I think it depends on like you don't know what this means, but my family we call it a whiffum, like what's in it for me, right?
Right, right.
That just depends on how they sell it to him and what they could get out of it. Like one thing I was kind of like taking a little bit of comfort in with the deportations was, Greg Abbott saying, "Oh, wait, we got to build up these tents. We got to do this. We got to do that. This is going to take a while." So I knew that there was pressure being put on him not to start these mass deportations. And then I look up again and he's like, "Hey, we got this land over here. You can put them over." You know what I mean? So I'm
Yeah,
looking like, where's this coming from? And then I start seeing like bids going up for like private prisons, right? And
right,
so it's like hard to connect the dot from, okay, so being homeless is a crime. We're going to have these immigrants over here. If we can like get back this stop and frisk and we start putting these people in these private prisons, that's going to make us money. And then we can just, have the chain gangs going out there pulling vegetables and cutting fruit and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like free labor, slave labor. So if they sell it to him like that, even though he knows how bad it is, he's going to get paid. So he's not worried about it.
yeah,
So if you can sell them this type of stuff and they could get something out of it and they can profit from it, they will go along with it. So it's just kind of any like one of these little policies that goes on. I try to say, who is it going to benefit and how is it going to benefit them? And when it comes to that, I learned really, really quickly that private prisons and free labor, oh, that's a selling point to them. So before they was not with that, but now all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, we can make that happen because there's something to be gained from it. So we
right.
look at it as like, oh, this is bad for us. It's going to make them look bad. We're not going to reelect them. They look at it completely different. So it's kind of it's I don't know, I get so upset trying to like put myself in the mind of these people, and it's like a really really dark place, but you have to think about where they're coming from
Right.
to predict what's going to happen. And I think that's where that's going to go, but this other stuff, it really does depend on how it's being sold to them
Right.
and if they're getting anything from it or not.
I don't,
I
I
don't.
don't, I don't know if you heard this or not, but yesterday there was a statement put out by the Trump Vance campaign,
Yeah.
and they were upset that a lot of the nominees were getting threats of violence, threats of bombs, threats of death. They said
Yeah.
that's completely un-American, and we're just trying to bring everybody together, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I did the TikTok about it, and I said, "Well, at least you know how those two women in Georgia feel, or the daughter of that judge feels, because sicking these mouth breathing, red meat eating pieces of shit on people is standard fare. They're even doing it now. You've got Elon Musk putting out names of people in the federal government that they want to fire and putting their names out there in the public, and now they're getting attacked. My point is these nominees are creating a lot of threats against them. And this is what I've said all along. If people think we're in for the deepest trouble we've ever been, this is when it will even cause some people on the left side to rise up and maybe get violent. Hopefully, it's just a few crazy ones. But I'll be honest, there's been a lot of people in the Republican Party, a lot of Trumplafucks, a lot of people in politics going, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I think Donald Trump is going to upset more people in the Republican Party that may take some kind of action, whatever that might be. I
Mm-hmm.
think when Donald Trump gets elected into office, when he gets inaugurated, he needs a very serious security force around him. He
Yeah.
really does, because, and I'm not worried about the Democrats. I'm worried about the Republicans saying, this fucker's going to ruin it for us. Let's get him out of here. And I'm not predicting anything. I'm just looking at human nature. And the only people crazy enough to do something that egregious would be a fucking Republican. And let's be honest, the last two guys that tried to take him out were Republicans. I'm afraid that next time it won't be an 18-year-old kid with emotional problems. It'll be somebody who knows what they're doing. So hopefully they have enough protection around him, because what Donald Trump is doing is riling people up, certainly Democrats.
Yeah.
But when you tell big oil, I'm going to fuck with your business, that can cause problems for a guy. JFK did far less than that, and we know how he ended up.
I think you and I are on the same page when we think about the threats and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I even thought for a second that it was Democrats because I'm looking back like, okay, they're either freaking out and they're scared and like, you know how Democrats are,
Yeah.
or like, okay, we need to prepare. What do we need to do? And then you have like, people like you who are like constantly pounding the internet, trying to get the facts out there, trying to get people to listen. You got people organizing, like, and then you got the people that's freaking out. But either way that you look at it, I don't think we have time to be like, you know what, let's just send some death threats. That only
No.
sounds like we'll cancel you, but we're not gonna threaten your mama. Like that's just crazy. But I do think that when the Republicans start to hurt, which um they are, I don't know if you've seen the immigrants in Ohio, how they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, and they're going to be the first group that we go get. Those people are like, okay, we out,
Yeah.
and the town is struggling with that right now. And so when you see that now, even though these people were having town hall meetings, and there were people that stuck up for the immigrants, but you have the racists that come out saying stuff like we they don't speak English, we don't want them in our kids' school, all that kind of crap. But even though they had a hand in that situation, now that they're feeling that loss and they don't have that, I think it was like, what, $88 billion or something like that revenue that they brought in after a year after they migrated there, when that is gone, these people are going to be upset. So I think their mindset is they always have to be the victim and they always have to blame someone.
Yeah.
When they start to blame like Democrats and stuff, like we get the death threats, we get all this crazy stuff, and then when they start blaming Republicans and they get the death threats and they get all of that other kind of stuff, it's a common denominator. It's these group of people that will have no problem with that type of behavior. They won't think twice about it. I think it's just going to get worse. The
Oh, I
more
do
that
too.
people started feeling the pain yet.
Well,
Um,
no, they haven't. He's not even in office as yet. And frankly, I'm not worried about the people making threats. I'm
yeah,
worried about the people that don't say anything.
yeah.
Those are the people that are serious, and those are the people you got to worry about. They don't say anything. And
Mm-hmm.
and again, I'm not trying to predict anything. I'm just saying when you rile up a country, threaten people's livelihoods,
Yeah.
threaten big corporations with a lot of money of taking money away from them, or entire countries. Like Donald Trump was even saying, we might even do a soft invasion of Mexico to get the drug cartel, which is absolutely ridiculous. That's going to fire some people up in other countries. If you're going to impact them, you can't piss off that many people without some ramifications.
Yeah, and you got to keep in mind his base think he is the um, never war,
Yeah.
president. They
Yeah.
love to say that about him, um, but I think he's really reckless. And you're right; it is the quiet ones you have to look out for. It's crazy because my daughter, she's always like, when my mom get quiet or she has like that one letter answer, you're like, just leave her alone,
Yeah.
because like something happens and I'm like, okay. Like when I do that, like everybody just scatters.
I'm going to take a
And
note of that just in case I get it.
I
Um,
think it is because there are people who they do feel isolated, and some of them may be isolated because of their vote, their actions, their choices has driven away their family and their friends, and so they are isolated and they are by themselves and they are a part of like this extremist group over here. And then when that extremist group does the opposite of what you thought it would do, and um, you realize the reality of the situation that you put yourself in, these are people who have been groomed to not take responsibility. It's somebody else's fault. It's the immigrants, the Black people, these women over here keep getting knocked up and all that stuff. Like their instinct is to blame someone else. And so when they start blaming Trump and pointing the finger at him, it's not us that he has to worry about. It's the people that he groomed to be extremists. It's the
Yeah.
people that he was telling that we have to be isolationist. We can't be around other countries and that type of stuff. He groomed them to think like this. It ain't no fun until the rabbit got the gun. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like I think that he is underestimating the um, his base a little bit because he plays a lot of mind games with them. I don't know if you've seen that article about that caravan. And we were laughing because it wasn't just a migrant caravan. It was an unstoppable migrant
Now, of
caravan.
course, it's always exaggerated.
Tires out, okay, it's unstoppable. I don't know if they're coming in a tank or what. But when he did that, then the next thing you know, you see like Fox News and all of his surrogates saying, okay, the president of Mexico stopped the caravan. And so
Right.
his supporters started saying, oh, within 12 hours of Trump making that post, all of a sudden they can stop their caravans and they can stop these drugs from coming here. Like they really do think that it was a caravan. And they really do think Trump made a post which caused the president of Mexico to stop that unstoppable caravan from coming here. They think Trump did that. But when they realize that he's just playing mind games with them and they've been effed from sun up to sundown, how are they going to deal with that? I don't think
Well,
they're going to deal.
it's no, they're not going to deal with it very well, and uh, it's interesting. The Mexican president, we look at Mexico as a weaker country, and they are a weaker country than we are, but they're very important to what we do. And he
Yeah,
makes these comments. He's not in office yet. He hasn't made it happen yet. But then the president of Mexico um, comes back, and she's a woman. She's Mexican, and she
yeah,
has a Jewish last name.
yeah.
And she basically slaps Donald Trump in the mouth and says, go ahead, you do that. Then we'll put tariffs on. And if you do this, we're going to do that. It'll be interesting to see how he reacts to that because he doesn't like when women talk back to him. And this woman seems to be pretty formidable.
Yeah, and she's a woman of color too, so
Right.
that's not go too well. And then I think that with the right, and anytime I've talked to them when I was canvassing and I tried to make this point to them, most of the drugs come into this country through Americans. Like
Right.
typically it's kind of like mules and they're not like they're not coming through the southern border. You know what I mean? They're getting on planes and coming in like they normally do. They're Americans. And they never think about the destruction that we cause to Mexico and other countries and the hand that we have in destabilizing those countries by just letting guns flow free however you want to. Anybody can get a gun. And then we take that to those countries and we're putting those weapons in the hands of the cartels. And then we turn around and talk about how horrible and bad these countries are because they have cartels who are armed to the hilt when we are arming them. They don't see that part of it. And I think that they are incapable of seeing fault in us. It's never going to be on us, and we're spoiled that way. And I think it's going to be a hard reckoning to realize that the idea of America is different than the reality of America. It's just
Well,
not what you
well
see on television.
President Scheinbaum of Mexico made this statement about Donald Trump, and while she's slapping him in the face, he says, "You talk about guns coming from Mexico to the United States. The
Yeah,
real problem is 70% of our guns are coming from your place to Mexico and killing our people." So
yeah. She said,
she's not messing around. Yeah, she said that.
I hadn't read that part.
Yeah, no, she did. She
I
said guns are coming from the U.S. into Mexico, and it's
yeah,
killing our people. She was
yeah.
making a point.
I knew that their gun problem was from us. I knew that, but I didn't know that I don't have to check that article out. I didn't know she said that. But
Yeah,
good for her pulling it out because it seems like people have been unable to recognize that fact. And then if you don't think that the gun manufacturers know that we're taking those guns over to Mexico and that's how they keep turning those profits, you're
yeah.
crazy. They know that. They're selling it and they know where it's going to go. Um, but we're just, they're brown people You know what I mean? They are going through hell and back just to get over here and try to work. And we just want to demonize them and make them scapegoats. And I think that people are going to see without them here um, how detrimental it would be for our country and our prices. And, I think they're going to see that unless I really do think they're trying to offset that by the slave labor. I know people keep saying, oh, free labor. Absolutely not. That's slave labor. If you're forcing these people to do that for free, I think that's what's making them think that they can offset that. And we live in reality. We know that's not how it's going to work, but I think that's how they're going to try to offset the mass deportations.
So the things that people are most concerned about, of course, with Donald Trump becoming president on January 20th is how is this going to affect me? We know it's going to affect the country. We know it's going to affect the perception of this country to foreign countries. But people are living day to day, paycheck to paycheck at this point when things are better than what we suspect they're going to be. Um, what are your thoughts about people who are struggling now and feel like they're going to struggle even more when Donald Trump becomes president? I mean, what the hell can anybody do?
Um, I'm trying because I know that I listened to Jason's episode and he was talking about disappointing me and stuff like that. I don't people say that, but I don't feel like that because I feel like as a whole, the people that we disappointed were our seniors, our children, vulnerable population like LGBTQ, in particular trans,
Yeah.
um, girls in the red states. They're really going to be suffering. Like those are the people that we let down. Even children, just thinking about them going to school, as many mass shootings as we have, and we just put a person in office with the House and the Senate who have no plans of doing any kind of gun control. So those are the people that we let down. And I think that since we did let them down, we got to make up for it. And for those vulnerable populations, we need to be there for them as much as we can. I was thinking about, I think it's like Judy Crazy Cat Mom or Cat Lady.
Yeah, Judy Crazy Cat Lady from the
Yeah,
Northwest.
I was thinking about that because I'm thinking about her because when I saw the stats on the medications that we get from like overseas, we get like over 50% of our generic medications from overseas. And a lot of seniors who are on medications, they take generics so that they can get the cheaper brand or whatever. And it's like, okay, so now they're not going to be able to get those medications from overseas. So if we make them here, it's going to be even more expensive. People don't realize either that the ingredients that make up the drugs 80% of those come from overseas. So you may have a pill or a medication with fillers in it and stuff.
Yeah.
We don't make that here in America. And if we did, it would be astronomical for the price, and people will not be able to afford that. And you talk about cutting their benefits and their food stamps and all of that. Like, what do you do? One of the seniors over here, I took her to her doctor's appointment. Actually, I was like, hey, let's make these appointments together so we can all go on one trip, like give all of you guys a ride. And I was talking to the doctor about it. And what he did for what he's doing for his patients is like, let's say it's a blood pressure pill, and they have to take 5 milligrams once a day. So what he will do is, well, what he's doing, and he did this to her, is, okay, so I'm telling you verbally, you take 5 milligrams a day, but I'm going to write the prescription for 10 milligrams, which means you have to cut your pill in half. So instead of the pill lasting you 30 days, it'll last you 60 days. So that's what
Right.
he's doing. I was kind of worried about her getting up in the morning and like taking the whole pill, knowing she's only supposed to have. So I went to her house and I sat down with a pill cutter. I pulled her medications out and I was like cutting each one of those pills in half and put it in a bottle for her. But it's just kind of like if you talk to your doctor and see if there's different things that they could do. Sometimes they get samples where they could get you through a month or two if you can't afford it. But it's going to be pretty expensive. I don't think people realize a lot of our medications come from overseas. Um, and God forbid that you have a child that needs medication, if they need to take Keppra or something because they have seizures, or um, it's
Well, in this country, we are people who run into problems and we're pretty good at finding solutions to those problems or workarounds. I mean, you see it every day with people that are don't have a lot of money. You know, they don't have a lot of money. They struggle every day. They're balancing every day, but somehow they survive. You do kind of figure out a way to balance it or juggle it. I'm wondering if this isn't an opportunity for some wealthy people. I'll give you an example. Mark Cuban, he has
Yes.
this business where he sells prescriptions very inexpensively. And I think he does pretty well with it, and he sells a lot of them. Uh,
Yeah.
but something like that could be expanded nationwide. Well, it is nationwide, but expanded, and people will flock to those situations just to get whatever they need to survive. Because what he's selling things for are quite a bit cheaper than what you get from the pharmacies and stuff like that. If enough people went to um, somebody like Mark Cuban or anybody else that would create that program where they could sell prescriptions cheaper, that would put a lot of pressure on the market and would probably help to bring down these prices if they're losing all kinds of business with these exorbitant prices.
Yeah, there's people right now, especially with like some of these cancer drugs, like every 6 months they take a trip down to, Mexico or whatever, get their drugs on the low, get
Right,
their 6 month supply and then they come back.
right,
So if that's happening right now, imagine what it's going to be like when you have a trade war going on with other countries and you can't get generics in here and you can't get anything in here for these people's medication. And you started a trade war with Mexico. Do you think they're going to open their arms and let our citizens go out there and get them for their cheap drugs? It's like the situation that you're putting them in. But Mark Cuban is a good one. And then like some of the stuff that I do with nuns on the bus, they do have donors that like fund the mom bus and fund the vaccinations. We had some like fundraisers going so that we can get the girls the implants for the birth control. And they're not all left leaning. There are like conservative and like the old fashioned sense of it,
yeah.
not how it's now. They're not going to speak out against Trump, but they will fundraise for you and help, do different things to try to just hold us over until we can get through this. Um,
I thought that
sometimes
was interesting. You were talking to me about how you were just talk like the young folks, kicking it with the nuns, and you were surprised they're almost like normal people.
I wasn't expecting it, and it actually is a breath of fresh air because you're so used to seeing these evangelicals and these Christian nationalists and stuff to be like around some real authentic faith-based people is kind of like refreshing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And it does make sense when you think about it. Like if you are a person of deep faith, you would not want a liar to just be telling you lies all the time. You would want the poor to be fed. You would want no child to be hungry. You would want equality. Like nuns in America, they're progressive. I think they're just normal in other countries, but for here, they're pretty progressive, and it's refreshing to see. And then it's kind of a reminder that that is just a scam. And these are just people who completely co-opted religion. There was someone who wrote you a letter. I can't remember, or an email, and I can't remember her name, but she said, "Watch Bad Faith on Tubi." And so
right.
I downloaded the app and I watched it almost 2 hours. And I was like, damn near crying the whole thing. They start off, the opening part is like January 6th and like how that went. And then they went back in time and showed how long these people have been working and working and working on Christian nationalists. And what got me the most is because I see what happened with these girls on the other end of the church, but I'm not in church with them and I'm not hearing the stuff that these pastors are saying.
Right.
And in that documentary, you hear the hate and the rhetoric, and they are spewing this to the congregation. There's children in the congregation, there's girls and there's women in the congregation. And it's like they're telling them that this is what you are. You're meant, like, you're your father's property until he gives you off to somebody else. And then that person, you're just kind of like a baby maker to them and you just clean up and like these are your duties.
Right.
And they are like programming these people to let them know that is the godly thing to do. When I see them, I see the outcome of that. but I don't really get to see like the build up and what got them to that point. And that's what the documentary is about. I'm glad that she recommended it. If I say I'm gonna watch something, I'm gonna watch it, and I watched it. But it was not something that was easy to watch. It
Yeah.
was disgusting. These pastors, or I wouldn't even call them pastors,
Well,
and they're just rolling in it, and they buy politicians, they buy elections. Like when you think about the gerrymandering and all that stuff that goes on, these people have their hands in that pot, and it's like a reminder of what we are up against. And it's hard to fight that with the truth when that's just a bunch of lies and grifts. You know, like how do you fight that with the truth? It's kind of like I'm showing up to a knife fight, but I got a pillow.
yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like I can't do nothing with that. And so it's a reminder of what we're up against. I would
Well,
say
that
people, but just be prepared because I was not ready for how raw it was to hear the stuff that they're saying. It's pretty disgusting,
and
honestly.
that is the most frightening part of this. You know, we talk about Donald Trump and there's a cult, and that's true. But the
Yeah,
bigger cult really is um, the Christian nationals and
yeah,
what they teach, because it's nothing to do with God or the Bible. It's about them controlling people. And then when
mhm,
you come at them and try to fight them, they put up God as a shield and they say, well, I believe in God, so anything I do is right. And that's something we've got to break down in this country. We
yeah,
give them too much room to do whatever they want. And they say, well, they're religious, so they can just do it. They shouldn't be able to do it if it's illegal or if it's harmful to people. And they're doing things to harm people every day. We're doing it with overturning Roe v. Wade. We had the two girls in Texas who died. Now we have a third one that died. And there's going to
yeah.
be more and more of this going on. And the question is, how do you answer that? Does God want these young women that don't need to die? Does he want them to die? Please, motherfucker. I don't care who you worship.
One of the last text messages I sent you, and then I was like, yeah, I have to take a break because I would kind of, it upset me because I was wondering during the election, because I know these are reports that we have with the mortality rate for the mothers
Right,
and the babies that they're forcing. And I saw that, you know, Greg Abbott was firing a bunch of people who were working on that data. And
right,
so it's like it's not that the Harris campaign slipped up or, you know, decided to go a different route. It's that information was being blocked and it was being hidden. Um, and so a lot of that stuff we're just not going to be able to get to see. So I don't think people understand the severity of it. Especially, I don't know if you knew about the 18-year-olds, and it's just a constant reminder that these are not like, oh, they just bled to death and they died. These people are miscarrying for like 3, 4 days at a time. And then
right,
when they go to the hospital, even though the pregnancy is not viable because of the laws, you can't give the mother anything that could harm this non-viable pregnancy. So
right.
you're not getting medications. Like when they say these women are laying there suffering, they are suffering. And this, she got pregnant when she was 17. Like she was like 18 when she had her baby shower. And she suffered for like 3 days, going to the hospital, sending her back home, going to the hospital, sending her back home. And that story was leaked right before the election, and barely heard anything about it, even though
Mhm.
that one was out. So the reports and the stuff that we know that's going on is just going to be in public. Just
Well, we've talked a lot about the media, and the media is largely responsible for why we are here. There's a number of people that are responsible, but they're responsible for misleading, misinforming, or just not telling people things. You've been hearing about what's going on. You know, MSNBC has lost half their audience. It
yeah.
seems like people have just gotten to the point where they've had enough of mainstream media and the manipulation that constantly goes on.
Mhm.
How are you feeling about that? Does that give you some hope when people group together in those large numbers and just say, fuck it, we're tired of listening to your shit?
Yeah, I think it's kind of I think it kind of scares them a little bit too.
Oh, yeah.
I was watching Tabitha Speaks. I love her channel, and she played a clip of Scarsborough, and I
Yeah.
mean, the gaslighting off of this privileged white man. It's like it's beyond me. I'm gonna get pissed off now. I was sad, now I'm getting pissed off. And he is sitting there saying that, oh, you know, that's how fake news spreads. So you have all these creators on YouTube and all this other place, and they're giving you the wrong information and they're talking bad about us. And real journalism is a blah, 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 blah. Completely incapable of seeing his hypocrisy in that.
Oh
And
no.
I think he did see it. I think he's just completely trying to gaslight. And Mika's just sitting there like, yep, yep, going along with it. He always overtalks her. He never like lets her opinion get that far out. And I was just like, the nerve. Because for them to sit there and go and kiss Trump's ring because that's what they did, and then come back and said, well, we kind of had to do it. He's the president. This man accused you of murder.
Yeah. Well,
It's not like your dad, like he did Ted Cruz. He accused you of murder.
I
And
saw
then,
that I saw that clip of what he did and what he said. He was talking about influencers or creators and how they lie and they don't know anything and that they are monetized and that they're incentivized. When he was saying that, it just told me that he was has no respect for his audience at all. I did a
no,
TikTok about that and I said, in monetized and incentivized? I'm one of those people you're talking about. I've got nobody above me telling me what I can and can't say, unlike you. Am I
yeah,
monetized? Yeah. Am I incentivized because of that monetization? Yeah, sort of. But if you want to talk about monetization, I'd be happy to show you my check from YouTube up against your check from MSNBC. Who's fucking
definitely.
monetized? Who's incentivized?
Yeah. And when you look at it, the left political commentators that we have, they don't make nowhere near as much as the white ones do, or the right ones do.
Or the
And
white
you
ones.
we had we had the evidence of that
Yeah.
when we found out that Russia's paying these people $100,000 an episode. So you get up on Monday, you make a live for like 2 hours, there go your $100,000 check. I don't know anybody on the left that's doing that. It's just not happening. The people who's getting paid to lie and give misinformation and fabricate crap, it's not the people on the left. And when you come at your audience like that, and your audience is primarily left leaning, they're gonna give you the bird and they're gonna keep it pushing. And I do think, because I've been seeing people like posting stuff about, the people on the left wanting to be in an echo chamber, and that's why they're leaving X and all of this other kind of crap. I think that they are afraid because they know that we're pretty fed up. We have the truth and the facts on our side. And when they see us go to a different platform like Blue Sky and we start to like organize, get the truth out there, they see that as a threat. And I
Oh,
think that
and they should.
yeah, I think he sees that. I think the people on X who like to just stir up a bunch of crap, I think they know that too.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they don't realize like we're not snowflakes like you guys. So
No.
you all have to go over there and be in your echo chamber. You can't take the heat. And we're like, whatever you want to tell yourself, I'm out. But they would sit there and whine and cry and complain and make these videos about us not wanting to sit there and tolerate their racism, their sexism, and their homophobia, not to mention the complete lack of facts that is like, it's just like a cesspool over there.
Right.
They don't see the censorship in Elon Musk. It's crazy. I think that they understand how much of a disaster Trump is going to be. And the last thing they need is us, like, congregating together and
Right.
figuring out to get through
Well,
that.
well, what they want to do is control the narrative and ease us out of what they told us once and now change it up so they still look right. There's one woman on MSNBC that everybody loves, and I liked her for a long time, was Rachel Maddow, because she
Oh,
seemed to be straightforward and such. But in the last 6 months to a year, I've become very tired of her because
yeah.
she's all about dramatics. She's all about the manipulation. Ever since she got the money to do podcasts, all she does is come out and tell stories, which they're good stories. But when we've got serious news to deal with, that's what I want to hear. And she came out recently and she was crying on MSNBC. She's trying to pull at people's heartstrings, and she sees that MSNBC is having trouble. So she took a pay cut. You know what that pay cut was?
Hmm.
She went from making $30 million a year down to $25 million. Oh, my fucking heart bleeds for you.
It is insane. It
It
is
is
insane.
ridiculous.
And like, people are compensated for the work that they do. So when you have somebody on the left who is working hard and making a good paycheck, like somebody like Brian Tyler Cohen, I don't think people understand, like, behind the scenes, he works his butt off. Like,
Yeah,
he is begging people to come on his podcast. He has that one with Glenn Kirshner, which is pretty good to keep us
very
up to
good.
what's going
Yeah.
on out there. I like when they have like lives and, Glenn is up there and like we're asking him those legal questions and he's answering them because they want to know us the truth. And, but then at the same time, it's like it's not doom and gloom, but it's not like so optimistic that you need to bury your head in the sand. Like these are the things that we can do and they're helpful. But
Right.
it seems like for those people, like they need you to engage, and the way that they get you to engage is through your emotions. And that's not the only way that you can aspire people. You know what I mean? Like that's not the only thing you could do to make people want to do something different or fight back. And a lot of times you could just lead by example, so I'm looking at Joe, I look at Rachel, I look at Mika, and it's like you guys are in a position to where you don't have to go and kiss Trump's behind.
No.
Like you're going to be hurting. Your bank account is going to be good. Your grandkids is going to be good.
Right.
So you go and you do that, you're selling out your audience, and then you're selling out yourself as well, along with this country, because you don't have to do that. You don't need the money. You are doing that so you can get more wealth when you're already wealthy. But sometimes I'll ask myself, like, how much money do these people need?
Yeah,
It's,
exactly.
and we just see it as greed. We realize what it is. And I think that they're disappointed because they can't mislead their audience as easily as Fox News, Newsmax, OAN misleads their audience. And I think they're going to wake up call for that. And
Well,
I'll be
you
won't be
said
getting
you
for
said they
me.
get paid for the work they do. They actually get paid for the audience they draw, and they've already lost half their audience. So they can
Yep.
see the writing on the wall. Even the parent company is looking to spin them off, which means get rid of them and sell them to somebody else. What do you think people are doing? I know I don't watch sometimes I'll turn it on for about 10 minutes just to see if anything earth shattering happened. Then I turn it off. And then generally I get a lot of news from the Brian Tyler Cohens. I look at AP, I look at Reuters, places that I know that have decent. But even when I get the news from those spots, I try to corroborate it with a bunch of different sources so I know it seems relatively true. Um,
It's sad that I pay for a subscription to Ground News and I shouldn't have to.
yeah.
But it's like if you just kind of want the journalism and you don't want anything to be biased, like we shouldn't have to pay for that. But I mean that just is what it is. We're just gonna have to get through that. But
That's what I was going to ask you. You're up to date with most of the news. You read a lot, and I try to keep up as best I can because when you talk about Brian Tyler Cohen or David Packman or
yeah,
Glenn Kirshner or something like that. Some people try to put me in a category with them, and I'm not because they are truly news people. I'm not a news person. I tell you what I hear and I tell you what I think. I'm not a newsman. I'm not going to even have any delusions of grandeur about that. So
no, but
I go to those folks. I go to those folks for the news. Where are some other places people can go to actually get the bare bones news so they know what the fuck's going on?
you're the newsman's uncle though. So kind of I do. I figure like you just, like you're at home, right? You're sitting there, you eating dinner, and you like saying, "Oh, hey, this, and this." Like you just saying it flat out raw. This is what it is, and then they take that information and kind of clean it up and make a better presentation of it. But for me, I try to go to like I watch like a lot of local stories because a lot of like the local channels are different than like the big networks.
Yeah.
Um, and then I try to read more than I watch, especially lately. And it's crazy. Eric on his channel, he has like playlists. And I had the Wild Child just kind of like going through some of his playlists because it does give you a more in-depth view of different like policies and different things that's going on. I don't know why he wasn't a history teacher. He should have been one.
Eric does a great job. He does a great job.
I watch his lives and his playlist just to kind of go into detail of something that you may not be clear on. And he's very responsive. Like I've left comments and like, he'll text me back in the comment section. So that's pretty good. When he gets a big audience, we won't be able to do that. So I'm gonna take advantage of it while I can.
Well, he knows your name and he knows who you are because he listens to you all the time. And Eric's a very smart guy. It's funny with Eric when he first came on, he really wanted to come on, and I could tell he was nervous the first couple of times, but after that, he's been pretty comfortable. And he's like a lot of people, like you and like Will and like Jason, other people that come on the show. I it's a day off for me because you guys know more about the details than I do. I know more, I'm a more of a big picture guy, and what does that fucking mean? So I learn a lot when that's where I get a lot of my news is from the people I have on the show and from the emails and stuff. And that's the point. The show itself isn't about me. It's about the collective we are, because we all have good information. We all have good sources, and we all have ways to try to make things better. As a group, we're strong. Any one individual, whether it be Joe Scarborough or Mike, we don't mean shit. It's who is with the group.
Yeah, I think another thing I do with when it comes to like policy, when people are saying like certain policies and this and that, like I will legit like look up policies and then I'll ask questions and I'll hit up anybody. Like it's been a couple times where I've like called like an attorney's office and just said, "Hey, I saw you have like a free consultation or whatever." They'll say, "Yeah," so I'll set up a appointment over the phone, and I'll just like ask them questions about different stuff, and it's like, "Okay, yeah, thanks for your service." And there's a couple people that's like, "Look, you don't have to go through this. If I got some free time, just call me and ask me your questions." Especially with like the immigration thing, like, what's legal? How do you combat that? How do you do this? How do you do that? So yeah, I do just try to use every resource at my disposal. And I'll have no shame. I'll knock on your door, I'll call your office. What you need me to do? Because I need to know what's going on. You gonna tell me. And like it or not,
Well,
you know,
you're hard to say no to. I mean, because you're a perfectly lovely young woman. You're pretty serious. You know what you're talking about. How do you say no? I don't have time for you. If somebody says that to you, they ain't worth a shit anyway.
yeah, I'm emotional too.
You are.
Not to be, but I have like what I call like my game face. Put my game face on, put my shoulders up, get through it, and then I might cry on my pillow at night. But I try not to do that in the world, and especially when other people are paying attention. You know what I mean? So like we're gonna be all right.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are still people that come to me and they'll say, "Oh, the world's over. The sky's falling. It's going to be terrible." And I don't think there's any point in your life, no matter how bad things are, you've got to have a little bit of hope. And I
Yeah,
was worried about you at first because you seemed pretty down after the first day after the election. And I understand that. A lot of people are like that. But don't you agree there's always hope. There's always an angle to get through these things.
yeah. I think it's doing a disservice to the people who paved the way.
Yeah.
As you look at, there was like a lot of bloodshed in this country for us to have rights, for women, LGBTQ, minorities. Like, there's a lot of bloodshed. Like, I used to just kind of like study Harvey Milk like all the time because it's just kind of like he got it from all sides.
Right.
And this is after he served his country. And a lot of people didn't even know that he was in the Navy. Like, yeah, he was gay, he was in the Navy, but he served his country and he was the best person to fill that role. And then when people talk about assassinations, they say, MLK, they say Malcolm X, they say JFK. And then it's kind of like these little guys like Harvey Milk
Right.
that they were assassinated as well, but their name is never thrown into that hat. But it's kind of like he had to do it in order for the next person to be able to do it. And it just feels like a disservice if we just give up. It's kind of like saying, yeah, you went through all of this, people died, bloodshed, all of, like you went through this just for us to say, you know what, I guess the Republicans won. I don't have it in me to just let them take it like that. Like,
Yeah.
give it to you. If you want to take this country, you're gonna have to fight for it because I'm not gonna roll over and just go with that. Which is, I know my TT is watching, and I shouldn't have said that
This,
because they say I'll be sneaking and creeping up out of these red states, and
yeah.
so like soon we know that I'm not gonna be able to talk about it. I'm just gonna have to make it work kind of like on the low, especially when Trump gets in there. Um, it's like I'm either like my TT's like you either gonna go to jail, you gonna go missing, and like she says that, and I'm like, what can I do before either one of those things happen? Like but people that care about you, they're never gonna see it like that. But I do think you need those people that are willing to sacrifice in order to make progress. So
Right. Yeah, we have to respect those people that came before us. But another thing that pushes me every day is the obligation, the responsibility I have to my granddaughter, to my future grandson, and to their offspring as well. Um, if I've got any fight in me, I've got to do it till the end to do whatever I can that's best for my grandchildren and whoever their kids are. I mean, if 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 our ancestors just gave up and didn't do shit, you and I'd be living in a dictatorship now and we wouldn't have any rights. It's because of what they did is why we enjoy what we have now. It still has to get better. And that's why, in order to respect our ancestors and accept the responsibility from those that will come after us, you got to fight. You can't whine and cry about it. You got to see some hope and you got to go for that fucking hope. That's the only, it's not like it's whether I want to do it or not. I feel like I have to do it.
Yeah, I think that we all should feel some kind of obligation in that. I've never had to like send a family member away from just being able to live free. You know what I mean? And I think like the hardest thing for me is to realize that, yeah, the wild child, her best option is not to be in America right now. Um, it's just like the hardest thing is to just like send her somewhere else because that's the best chance that she has. Um, it's hard because it's like, okay, her mom left her and now I'm sending her away. I know she understands better and I understand better, but it doesn't help anyway. And so now I just say, okay, well, I'm just gonna have to do what I have to do so she can come back and be safe. And so I just let that push me in the right direction. But I think we're all obligated uh, to the next generation because if we don't fight for it, they don't have a chance at all.
Well, and I think you make a good point. It's an attitude I've always had. When something happens and that's over, I can't whine about what happened. I got to worry about what to do next. And sometimes you have to do the things you have to do, and they aren't necessarily the things you want to do. I know you
Yeah,
don't want to send away Wild Child because it's going to be harder to control her life from overseas, but I know you'll try. I know you'll try. But she needs it and she's benefiting from it. But that's the
yeah,
thing. That's what America was built on. No matter how bad the situation, we figure it out and we
yeah.
attack it and we deal with it. And if you stop doing that, you're just going against the whole reason and the whole way this country was built in the fucking first place.
Yeah, I feel like that's the problem. And this is the solution. And sometimes the solution isn't always easy. And the unselfish thing to do is typically the hardest thing to do. And I was kind of like going back and forth for a minute. And then I saw um, the student loan debt that Biden had forgiven. Like they're already like, okay, yeah, we're gonna roll that back in because I guess they're gonna take that money back into the treasury or whatever, and they're gonna make these people start paying for those student loans again. And I was just kind of like, yeah, she wouldn't even be able to afford to go to school here. I'm
Yeah.
paying for classes at the junior college for her, and it's like they're not cheap. So it's like if you want a proper education, you need to go outside of the states and get it because that's not something that we can give here.
If
Um,
if they ever do anything like those things that they're talking about, the tariffs, the school loans or whatever,
yeah,
there's gonna be a rebellion in this country like nobody's seen. Because here's the deal: it's one thing to tell somebody I'm not going to forgive your loan, but if you take away something they've already been given, people are going to be pissed, and there's going to be prices to pay. And Donald Trump may or may not suffer those consequences, but the Republican Party will, and they know that. That's why
yeah,
I'm saying, Donald Trump says a lot of stuff. You know, prior to the 2016 election, he said he was going to deport a bunch of people. He said he was going to deport a bunch of people, and he was tough. He ended
yeah,
up deporting 1.5 million people. In Biden's first term, he deported 1.9 million people. So talk is cheap. Donald Trump is a pathological liar. He pulls anything out of his ass and he says what he says. But when it comes down to it, he's incompetent. He's not going to get the support of Republicans because it's going to hurt the Republican Party. That's what, people think just because he says it, that's the way it's going to happen. But that has never been the case with Donald Trump. It, somebody suggested me, I don't know who it was, maybe Eric, that suggested that with the deportation, he might deport a chunk of people and then he'll institute some other rules and stuff and say, we fixed it. I win. I'm the greatest guy ever. Just so they don't have to deal with the optics. Donald Trump says he does a lot of stuff. Most of the time, he does nothing.
I hope for the sake of these families that that's true. Um, and then I think, I think the hardest part about all of this is if Donald Trump really believed this to his core, like he thought that this was the right thing to do for America, it'll be easier to swallow that pill. It's like, okay, this is his belief system. He crazy, but he always been like this his life. But knowing that Donald Trump would just screw this whole country over policies that he doesn't believe in, nor does he care about.
No,
Donald Trump don't care about women having abortions. He don't care about that. Donald Trump don't care about none of this stuff. He just cares about money, what's going to make him money. I think he felt embarrassed and humiliated by the Democratic Party because we didn't fall for his crap. And I
right.
do think the revenge element to that. I think he's racist. And so it's like, hey, what a way to get it. I think that him being so close to dictators and knowing that they want to destabilize America as well as Mexico as well as Canada, I think a lot of these policies are being influenced by their influence on him. But it's so hard to know that he don't care about none of this crap. So it's like we're going through it for a man that don't care about this. Like the people around him, I think they do care. But I just don't think he cares about it. So it's like we're going through this for something that he just does not care about. And I
No.
think that's the hardest thing to just like digest, knowing that it's just BS. He don't care. Like you could just play with somebody's life.
Well, one of the things Donald Trump does is he always pushes the limit. He always goes to the edge. Sometimes he goes over the edge.
Yeah.
And part of me is wondering why, before you're president, are you spouting off about deportations and tariffs and stuff? And Donald Trump is, he often attempts to manipulate people. And part of me thinks that he's saying these things now just to gauge what the response is going to be. Like, for example, the tariffs. He's got people that are typically on his side saying, no, you don't fucking do that. He's testing the waters. He's saying the craziest things to see what people do, see how far he can get. Now, when he sees that all these people are pushing back against him, Donald Trump is easily manipulated. He wants people to like him. So if he does this and everybody hates them, that goes against everything that Donald Trump would normally do. So I'm thinking that he's putting this out there just to see what happens. And then when he gets in there, things will get busy and things won't get done. Remember how the infrastructure was going to happen every 2 weeks and it never got done? That's how a lot of this is going to do because with Donald Trump as president and the clowns he's got working for him, it's going to be like slogging through mud like they did in the first term. I mean, he made a lot of claims and a lot of threats in the first term. What did he do? What did he accomplish? He got a tax break for rich people. That's about it. He
Yeah.
doesn't work hard. He isn't detail oriented. He'll put things off. He'll lie about infrastructure for 2 weeks and 2 weeks and 2 weeks. This is who Donald Trump can spew bullshit, but at the core, he's incompetent and he is a habitual failure. And this is what I think is going to help us. I think there's two things that we have to do as Democrats and see what you think about this. First of all, whatever the Republicans did with regards to obstructionism, we have the ability to do that. We have a close enough tie in the House. They needed our help every time they tried to pass anything because they're divided. In the
Mhm.
Senate, the one thing we hated, we now have as our benefit, and that is the filibuster. Filibuster everything. They need 60 votes. They'll never get anything passed. It'll never get to Donald Trump's desk. But I think the most important thing we as a people can do, now you're not going to like this one, but
Surprise you.
you may like it. But the thing is we got to look at what cost us the election and what caused Donald Trump to win.
Yeah.
Um, and there's only one thing that caused Donald Trump to win. It's the talking louder, carrying the narrative, talking over people, blaming Joe Biden for everything, talking shit, maybe even lying to a certain extent, blaming Joe Biden for everything, the Democrats for everything. Oh, they're coming across the border.
Yeah.
What I'm suggesting is here I sit doing what I do. I can inform people and I can do that. But in a smaller way than some other people, I do have a bully pulpit. And I
Yeah.
feel like it's my job right now to call out every failure, every stupid thing, every ridiculous thing, maybe even exaggerate how bad they're doing it, and just do what I can to speak as loudly as I can and try to carry the narrative and get other people to try to do the same thing. Do the very thing they did to the Democrats. Just bury them in rhetoric, bury them in noise, and don't let them say the things because they're going to be trying to blame it on the Democrats. How, I don't know, but they will try. So we need to bury them. And this is a petty way to do it. Just so happens I enjoy that and I'm kind of good at it. So that's what I see myself doing is just ranting. Donald fucked up again and here's how. Donald Trump cost you this and here's how. And we've got to keep doing that. And people say, well, that's petty. You shouldn't have to do that. Well, that won it for the fucking Republicans. Tell me it was something different. So if that won it for the Republicans, let's go tit for tat on this shit.
Um, I kind of agree, but I kind of don't. I
I,
think
I
that
thought you might.
I think like the response to this and the way to get people to listen, I think that's the right way to do it because um I don't know how to say this nicely. People don't like to exercise their brain cells, you know. They don't think that, you know, those muscles in the brain need to work at all. So we have to make it simple for them. Being loud and, you know, bombastic and a little braggadocious about things that could get attention. But I do think that with Donald Trump, the method to his madness was that he knows ignorance, he knows racism, and he knows hate. He knew something that a lot of us did not know. And for me, like for the longest time, I'm like, oh yeah, 20-30% of this country is just,
Yeah.
you know. But for Donald Trump, he's like, that's what you think.
Yeah.
And I think he knew that and he knew how to tap into that. I think like somebody like Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, like even myself, we know how to fight against it, but I don't know how to tap into racism, hate, any like it's not in my nature to tap into that type of mindset. I want to be as far away from it as possible.
But
Donald,
here's the thing though. In my
yeah,
normal situation when I'm doing this, I'm
yeah,
talking strictly to Democrats. That's why
yeah,
I block out all Republicans because I want to
mhm,
talk about the facts and what's important. When I'm going to call them out for everything, I'm not talking to Democrats. They know this. I'm
mhm,
going to be trying to catch the attention of the dumber fucking people in this country, the people who will be suffering and looking for an answer, looking for an excuse. And when they're
mhm,
suffering without jobs or crops in the field, and I go, Donald Trump fucked this up this way. And if that catches any traction, maybe it will catch on to some of the base or the
mhm,
people that would vote for Donald Trump or that might be embarrassed about voting for Donald Trump. What I'm saying is we got what we got. The the far left kind of screwed us in this deal.
mhm.
And I don't know how to get them unless we go way left. And then if we go way left, then the center people will walk away. So it's a tough situation. My goal is to try to break up the Trumplifucks. You're suffering now. And here's why, motherfucker, because your guy failed you. And when the pressure gets tough enough, they're going to look for somebody to blame. And I
Yeah.
want them to blame Donald Trump.
I don't think I could do it in like a hateful, racist way,
Not a
but
racist way, no, but I could do it in a hateful way.
the
Um,
way the way to speak their language is to speak to their emotions, like
right,
Donald Trump did,
right.
and just basically keep them pissed off. And I think
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say. So
yeah.
it's we have to like keep them angry and pissed off, but direct that anger and those feelings. towards something else like the Republican Party and like Donald Trump. So they're angry now, but if we can kind of tap into that anger, and then I don't think it's going to be difficult to do when,
No.
your grandma can't afford her medications and, there's going to be a lot of crap that's going on. So it's not going to be difficult. And I think they're angry anyway. Like these are some of the most angriest winners I've ever seen in my life. There
Yeah.
was like a fool in the comment section last week. And after I told him he was weak and pathetic and a couple other things, I did tell him he deserved better than the president that just lies to him. But I kind of laid into him at first, and then I told him you deserve better than that. But I think that tapping into that anger, but then also kind of massaging like that victim mentality. So like this is the person that took away your medications, took away your health insurance, and you're struggling because of this, and this, and you deserve better than that. Republicans should not be allowed to treat you like that. Look what they did to this country. That's how you do it. You can make them angry and feel like a victim at the same time, and they will vote for you every freaking day of the week, which is sad because they're not voting for policies or any of that. This is the person that you can blame for your problems. It's not your fault. None of that. They came in here and this is what they did. And you don't deserve that. Your kids don't deserve that. Your kids, they had a free education. So Republicans came in here and messed it up. Look how horrible they are. I feel
Yeah.
gross saying that.
Yeah, well, you and I are on the same page for a lot of things, and we're different in terms of our personality. You're a little more sophisticated, a little more compassionate. I'm just kind of pissed off right now. And what you're talking about is a good idea. What I'm talking about is not so much making them feel like victims, is doing the one thing that they hate the most and then not have any answer for. Embarrass them. Embarrass Donald Trump. Embarrass them. You did this, you fucked up. And then they get into that victim thing and they got to try to figure a way out of it. You know,
We
they
can tag.
will. What's
You
that?
can. We can tag team them. You piss them off. Mama gonna
Uh,
make them a victim.
that sounds like a good deal to me.
They
I, you
pissed off.
know,
It's like I understand why you mad. They did not deserve to treat you like this. How could they
good
do that to your
good
family?
good cop, bad cop. That's what it's going to be. And I tell people will say, "You just piss me off." And I go, "You have to understand, that's my hobby. I enjoy pissing people off. That's
Yeah,
kind of fun to me. I don't mind confrontation." So, yeah, good cop, bad cop. I'll beat them up and then you can try to console them into doing the right thing. That makes sense. I like that. I like that. I
that's
mean,
what I
whatever
got
it
out.
takes.
Yeah, I got out of that documentary. Bad Faith is the way that they tap into the emotions of these people. And then people are so vulnerable when they're in church or certain settings. You're just vulnerable in that moment. Like you'll be vulnerable in your therapist office. And if that therapist started pumping crap into your brain, it'll be so much easier to control you from there. And that's what the churches are doing. You're coming to church, you're looking for guidance, healing. You might feel a little lost. You want to get pointed in the right direction, and they take that vulnerability and they turn it into like anger and allow you to be a victim and then give you a place to direct that anger and
Yeah.
that's what they're doing. And as gross as it is, we have to start speaking their language, and that's the language that they speak.
I think that's exactly right. We got to speak their language.
Yeah, that far left, I don't know what to tell them. I really don't know what to tell them. I think that they are some of the most selfish people I've ever seen in my life. I saw a woman who's like a Palestinian, and she was given an interview, and they was like, so you organized, you worked so hard for people to not vote for Kamala, and then like, did you think Donald Trump was going to do better? And the first words that came out of her mouth was like, we never thought this election was going to be that close. Like, who knew?
Yeah.
And it's like it wasn't about Palestine at that moment. I saw it for attention for this cause. I don't think it was about the Palestinian people, because if it was, you would not take a chance with their lives. It was just the kind about making noise, the movement, and all that other crap that they were doing. Because if they knew the election would have been close, they would have did something different. So it's not the principle behind it. And
Right.
then when you top of the fact that they protested against Kamala. I went to her rallies. They would be across the parking lot protesting. Some of them would sneak into the arenas. They had all these groups going online and all of this other kind of crap and posting videos and stuff. They never gave that same energy to Donald Trump. Why? Because they knew he didn't give a damn. They knew he
Right.
didn't care. So it's like,
Right.
why are we going to go over here and make noise with him? He don't care. Probably be more pissed off.
Well,
But
Will and
they
I,
knew she cared. And so they targeted her because they knew she cared. They knew Biden cared. They knew that we cared. So they targeted us because they know that it would affect us. And so it's like, if you know we care and you know it's going to have an impact on us, why would you vote for the person who you know don't care? So it wasn't about the Palestinian people at that time. It was about them and the noise, feeling special or whatever the heck they had going on.
yeah.
I think it was pretty selfish for them to do that. And
Well,
I got to be honest to you, I would not be able to sleep at night without 100 milligrams, maybe 101 milligrams. That is a lot to have on my conscience that I caused that to happen or had a hand in that.
well, and I like you said, they use the Palestinian cause
Mm-hmm.
basically to feed their ego. They want
Mm-hmm.
what Will and I were talking about this. They want what they want now, and if I don't get it, I'm going to pout. I don't have to worry about it because she's going to win anyway. But I'm going to pout and I'm going to show my protest. Now, there's
Mm-hmm.
something on TikTok going around with all the Trumplafucks now that they're realizing all the bad shit that's going to happen to them, and they call the section on TikTok "fuck around and find out."
Yeah.
These far left people that did this, like I said, they're going to have to sleep with the fact that they may very well have gotten these Palestinian people that they were supposedly supporting wiped out. That could happen.
I, as horrible as I think they are, I can't like lay into them like that because I don't know how they deal with that on an emotional level. It would jack me up. So I don't know how they are going to deal with that or process that. And I just don't want to add on to it. It's just most of the time we learn our lessons and they might affect a handful of people, but they don't affect like a whole genocide, you know what I mean? Or ethnic cleansing. But their poor choices, just for the attention and the followers and all that stuff that they were getting on social media, this is the backlash to that. Um, I don't know how they do it. I couldn't deal with something like that.
Well, they're going to learn a lesson 4 years from now. They're not going to be pouting and protesting. They're going to be begging for fucking help. And the only help they're going to get is getting a Democrat in the White House. And they're going to have to deal with 4 years knowing that they fucked up and cost people's lives. I know you won't say it like that, but apparently we need to be that rough on them because they fucked up this time and they fucked up big.
Yeah,
Hopefully they learn that lesson and they change their ways because it was absolutely ignorant.
yeah, because it's out of it's out of our control at this point.
It
Like
is.
unless Donald Trump, you know, had one Big Mac bite too many and just couldn't make it until the inauguration. This is it. And to be honest with you, I don't think JD Vance would be any better on the issue either.
I don't
I
know if
think
he's
he
going
might
to.
be better for us here at home, but for that particular issue, I think he is just as bad as Donald Trump. And that's something that they have to, and these people have like generations of their families that are, so these are not like faceless Palestinians. These are, mothers and fathers and sisters, and these are people that they know and they are not going to be here anymore. And that's just like, how the heck do you sleep at night?
I don't think JD's better than Donald Trump as far as ideology,
Mhm.
but he's not as much of a wild card. He's proven that he's pretty wimpy. He does whatever he has to do to get power. So if he ends up being the president in some way, he's going to be completely controlled by the Republican Party.
Do
And
you think
that's
he would
and
allow
that's
them
not
to the
great,
West?
but what's that?
You don't think he will allow them to annex the West Bank, JD?
It depends on if the Republicans will allow it. Because I think JD won't be making any decisions. He's going to be completely controlled. And that's the problem with Donald Trump. Nobody has control over Donald Trump, not even the Republicans. And that scares the Republicans more than it scares the Democrats.
That is a good point. And I don't know what made Republicans think that they can control Trump the first time. I damn sure don't know what made them people think that they can control him this time. It
Yeah.
is crazy. The disappointment that I have, seriously, is that, like Mitch McConnell, it's like 100-year-old turtle. And he was able to be like, yeah, we're not supposed to let this happen. And he was able to make a couple moves, not like, you know, a move that I would have made, but he was able to like, okay, let's kind of like lessen the blow a little bit.
Yeah.
And I just don't see Democrats doing that right now. And it's like, what the heck are you guys doing? Just how long can you point the finger and how long can you analyze this election before you just move on from it?
Well, let's be
Because
honest. The only thing the Democrats can do right now, it's going to be on the Republicans, the hopefully reasonable Republicans, to shut Donald Trump down. The only thing the Democrats can do now is not help out the Republicans in the House because they will need help to get anything done and to filibuster anything that gets to the Senate. That's really all the Democrats can do. They better find a way to be in a better position in 2028 and 2022, and they better fucking work on it now because
do you
they did the wrong thing.
do you think they're like behind the scenes making moves and we just don't know nothing about it? Because typically stuff
Oh,
like
I'm
this
sure
leaks.
that always happens. Yeah. Yeah, I think they will. I'll be honest with you. I hate the Republicans for all the things they've done. I'm
Yeah,
immensely disappointed in the Democrats, and I don't know how far I trust them. They had an opportunity like no other, and they fucked it up.
yeah,
I'm not Democrat or Republican. I've always said it's them against us, not Democrats versus Republicans. The Democrats is the one way to save things and get things back on track. I think they have the ability, but they gotta change their ways. Otherwise, they're going to keep getting their ass kicked by dumb fucks.
yeah. I do think they need a but some of them have it. I look like Jasmine Crockett and
Oh yeah,
people
there are
like
plenty that are good, but they aren't in the big leadership. We need to get those fucking wimpy ass leaders out, the Schumers and people like that, and put somebody
Mhm.
like Jasmine Crockett or Eric Swalwell in. That's what we need to do.
Somebody who's not like afraid, like, Mitch McConnell, like his gangster was like, yeah, we're gonna have a closed door meeting and talk about who we want to be the leader of the house. And we're gonna do a secret ballot on that. Like he didn't
Right.
sneak it. He just said, this is what I'm gonna do. And he did it. And I wish that they would have a little bit of that in leadership. I saw, and I don't think people understand how hard it is to watch some of this crap go down and people don't speak up. Because I saw Jasmine Crockett when she was, going after them for wanting to do the reparations for white people, how unfairly they was treated. And, she's like, do y'all think that we asked to be here? No, we were kidnapped. We were taken from our homes. And like, she was breaking down a history that we all know. And then like, I see the next day, actually the wild child sent it to me. She was like, did you see this? And I was like, what? And the top of the article said Jasmine Crockett rants and raves against the white man. That was the that was the title of the
Uh,
article. And I was like, you better not have read that. She was like, no, I just seen it and I wanted to know if you saw it. And I was just like, out of that whole spiel that she gave, that's the headline. And I know the reason that that was the headline is because that was her delivery.
right,
They wanted her to push back, but in a quiet, meek type of way.
right.
And that's not how you get progress. That's not how you get change. I
Well,
think John said it best, which is good trouble. And I think that's kind of like the model that I live by.
well, we're
And I
get,
do think that some of our Congress people need to live by that too.
well, we're getting to the point where we're going to wrap things up. You mentioned Mitch McConnell. I'm going to say one last thing, and I want you to respond to this. Mitch McConnell decided they didn't, they'd gone too far, and they wanted a decent leader that pushed back against Donald Trump. So they got John Thune in there instead of Rick Scott. And
Mm-hmm.
Mitch McConnell did that by having a closed door secret ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Mitch McConnell had done that same thing when it came to voting whether or not to convict Donald Trump in the
Mm-hmm.
last impeachment, Donald Trump would have been convicted. We wouldn't even be in this situation. So Mitch McConnell's coming a little late to the party to do this stuff. And I think he's backpedaling here because he realizes how badly he fucked up. This was a bad move just to try to win an election. And now he's trying to cover up and trying to catch up. I don't know how much he can do that, but at least he's starting to get his head on straight to understand the real problems that Donald Trump could create.
I think that Mitch McConnell is being a typical Republican, and that typical Republican is it's cool. But as soon as it start to cross this line and start to affect me, we got a problem. And
Yeah,
I think that's where Mitch McConnell was coming from. And Mitch McConnell is like, if I have a problem, we all have a problem.
right.
That's where like you could burn down this whole country. But as long as he is still getting his kickbacks, he is cool with that. But the moment it starts to affect that, then that's where the problem lies.
Agreed.
We did have, I don't know if you pay attention to like Black people online.
Black people online. I have a lot of black people that follow me on TikTok. I talk to them all the time.
Here's some good news. We have been dragging the heck out of Byron Donalds,
Yeah.
Tim Scott. What's that other fool's name? All of them. Just
Yeah.
Trump's little, his little brown people pets, right?
Yeah.
And so we know that in a Republican administration, the Black job is HUD, Housing of Urban Development.
Right.
And so
Right.
taking all kind of polls, we just doing all this kind of stuff. Like, which one of these fools is gonna get that Black job in Trump's administration? None of them did. Not Ben Carson, not Byron Donalds, none of them. Some guy, what was his name? Like Scott something. We never even heard of this. Like, where did they pull this black man
I think his name was Whitey McPastyface. I
from?
think that's who it fucking was.
We know HUD is a black job in a Republican administration, but we were betting on, the usual suspects, Tim Scott, Byron Donalds. I was like betting on all of these people. And then I think like Trump was just like, I got a surprise for y'all. And then he came out with this black dude from nowhere. It's like, who the heck is he? We knew it was going to be a black person in that
It
job.
was he did pick a black person because he hadn't picked any black people up to this point. Oh,
Yeah,
well, that's he's growing.
well, we know that, for racists in their administrations, um, like that's what they do. They give HUD, I guess because it has the word urban in it, they
Yeah.
always give a black person. Somebody in the comment section did remind me that when we were talking about the transgender person in Congress, it was a transgender in Biden's administration.
Right.
I can't
That's
remember
right.
what her name was, but I think she was like I can't remember her title, but anyway, she was in the Biden administration.
That's right.
So
That's
I
right.
was kind
Yeah.
of like looking at her background, and I just feel she's woefully overqualified. She did a very, very good job in her role, and to
Yeah.
think that somebody like Robert F. Kennedy could come through and change that is crazy. The last thing I wanted to say, because um, I told my brother that I would mention this because we were watching, and I can't remember who was on here. I think it might have been like Will or somebody, but we were talking about Vivek Ramaswamy wanting to cancel the work from home jobs so that people won't want to come back into the office, so they'll just quit.
Yeah.
But the part that they left out is in the government, a lot of those work from home jobs goes to spouses of our servicemen and women. So like they have to move a lot. So like let's say they're in Germany and they need
Right.
to transfer back to the States. Instead of having to come to the States and look for a job, they just do like I do, pack up my equipment, take it with me, and then I could just log my laptop computer up, and I can just do my work from anywhere.
Right.
So the jobs that it's not that the people don't want to come back into the office, it's that they can't come back into the office, because when you have spouses of servicemen and women and they have to move, they can't like go to the office in some random country. They have to take their equipment with them. So I did tell him and Vote Vets that I would make sure that I clarified that, because Vivek left that part out. It's
Yeah.
the men and women, their spouses and some of their kids work in some of those jobs. They are going to be the ones who are going to have to quit, because most of the time they won't even be in the same state or the same
Right.
country as the job that they're doing. So they left that part out, which sucks. I didn't even think about that when I
No,
heard
I
that he
didn't
was.
either. I didn't either. But that's typical of that's the thing. They just say things for optics, and they don't always follow up with it. They've been doing it all through the campaign. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, and they never really have any intention of doing that stuff. It'll get lost someplace. I'll be surprised if they pull that off, because there'll be a lot of pushback from the military.
I really
Um,
hope.
and
I
then
don't understand this attack on our military and their benefits. And even like my brother, his ex-wife, like she's in Germany right now. And, she had that job since they was like in Hawaii when they first got married. That was like years and years and years ago. Um, I don't understand this attack that they are on them. Like, I don't know if they're going to do it or not, but the fact that they can say it out loud and get away with it. But I think that part they can say it out loud and get away with it, because a vast majority of the people don't know that those
right,
jobs are for servicemen and women's families. They just think, oh yeah, these are just people that's not going to go back to the office. They don't matter. And so people don't realize that it's an attack on the military. They don't know that.
Right.
And the crazy part about it is Republicans know they don't know that. So they have absolutely no problem saying it out there in the open, and nobody checks them on it. They just, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, also, we're going to wrap things up. I thank you for coming out. Thanksgiving Day. We're doing it the night before. You have a great Thanksgiving Day, and I appreciate you coming on as always. And I know the people love hearing from you. So thank you for stopping by
Yeah, I'm off tomorrow, so I'll be in the comment section again. Yeah,
on Thanksgiving Day.
I'm
That's
gonna get up and
dedication.
see what people got to say. I get some pretty good information from the comment sections, from the emails, like that documentary that had me upset, but it was informative. Somebody said they wanted me to watch it, and I watched it, and I knew exactly what she was talking about too.
That's some shit, as CeeLo Green would say.
Yeah,
Um, well, for those of you listening, thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.